What is going on, guys? So today we're back with another deep dive, and today we're actually going to be going over Alolan Sandslash, which was quite surprising to take a look at. So Alolan Sandslash is actually a steel and ice type Pokemon, deathly terrified of the fire types, maxing out at 2432, but with a 0 on attack, 14 defense, 14 stamina. At level 23.5 you can hit a 1498. Now that may be kind of hard to do considering that it's pretty likely that yours is from a hatch or something to that effect. Either way, if that's the case, you're really looking for a 10, 14, 10 at level 22.5, which actually does yield you a clean 1500. So if we actually compare Alolan Sandslash up against the entire Fusion Cup, we're looking at around 35th in bulk and 28th in stat product, which is actually decent. That's actually pretty high. It's not like, you know, the best, but it's definitely pretty good. And of course, all of that does actually come from our base stats with a 177 on attack, 195 on defense, and 181 in stamina. That's actually really good. That's a nice spread. So, of course, we know that that's only half the picture. Let's actually take a look at a few of our moves here and kind of figure out what we're working with. So starting off in our fast moves, we do have Metal Claw and Powder Snow. Metal Claw, we actually do get 3 energy per turn for 2.5 damage per turn. After stab, though, it does get bumped up to a 3.0. Powder Snow is actually pretty interesting. 4 energy per turn for 2 damage per turn, but after stab, it does get bumped up to 2.4. So already you're kind of like in a conundrum. Do you want more damage? Do you want more energy? How do you kind of want to go about it? Well, let's get through some charge moves and I'll kind of give a little bit of an insight here. So in terms of charge moves, we do have Blizzard. For 75 energy, we get 130 damage at a 1.73. After stab, it does get bumped up to 156 for a 2.08 on the efficiency. Gyro Ball, we do have for 60 energy, we get 80 damage at a 1.33. It does get bumped up to 96 on the damage after stab for a 1.6 on the efficiency. Then we do have Bulldoze. For 60 energy, we get 80 damage at a 1.33. No stat benefits there. And then lastly, we do have Ice Punch. For 40 energy, 55 damage at a 1.38. After stab, though, it does get bumped up to 66 on the damage, which ends up getting us a 1.65 in the efficiency. So what I was going to say about Metal Claw and Powder Snow is basically, I would say it kind of depends on like what charge moves you kind of feel comfortable with. Personally, the moveset that I found really like helps the most is, I guess, Powder Snow, Bulldoze, and Ice Punch. Not because that's the one that is basically the one on PvPoke, but it kind of sets you up for Powder Snow and Ice Punch have a really nice little tandem here. You get, you know, basically 10 turns until you get to Ice Punch, which is 5 seconds, which is really quick. And then you basically have Bulldoze as your backup move for, you know, random encounters that you're going to have. For what it's worth, Gyro Ball actually is going to output more damage, but kind of just depends on what kind of coverage you want. If you need more, you know, steel type damage on your team, then Gyro Ball definitely makes more sense. You get stab out of it and it's just going to, you know, inch you out of the damage a little bit better than Bulldoze. But then you also have Blizzard, which you could go for, which is going to give you an insane amount of damage compared to the other moves. And it's just all around going to be a super hard hitter. For what it's worth, though, I will mention that Metal Claw, if you went with Ice Punch and Bulldoze and you couldn't decide Metal Claw or Powder Snow, you have the exact same win percentage in the meta up against a 1v1 shield scenario meta scene kind of thing. So that's actually quite interesting. One of the more interesting points is if you use Metal Claw, because you're going to have a little bit more damage, you will actually win in the mirror if the mirror decides to go with Powder Snow over Metal Claw. So there's a couple of things to consider here. A lot of the movesets that I looked at basically didn't drop any matches. The matches just kind of shifted. I think you can basically run a multitude of combinations here, whether you want Ice Punch. I think Ice Punch is probably going to be the more like preferred move for me. I think I would highly recommend that one. But then like outside of that, Bulldoze or Gyro Ball, I think is going to kind of be up to what kind of coverage you need. And when it comes down to Powder Snow or Metal Claw, do you kind of want to win in the mirror or do you want to not? I guess. Basically, I personally settled on Powder Snow, Bulldoze, and Ice Punch just because I felt like it was gonna be the moveset that most people run up against anyways. So when we get into the wins and losses, I think that's more important for you guys to see. But just in general, I think you can kind of mix and match a ton of these movesets and really make your Alolan Sandslash kind of unique in a way, which is actually kind of cool. If that's going to be our moveset, let's actually move into some shielding scenarios here. Up against the entire cup, in the 0 versus 0, we do have a 71.3. In the 2 versus 0, we're at a 91.6. A 0 versus 2 at 14.7. And the 2v2 is a 67.8. So really fast, let's go over some of these numbers. The 0 versus 0 and the 2v2, we're at least looking for 50% in the even shield scenarios, and both of those definitely hit that mark. Very, very good. The 2v0 is kind of low from what I would expect. I mean, I usually, I don't ever say, I'm usually looking at 95%, but low 90s is average. I would expect that from most Pokemon in a complete shield dominance scenario. The only thing that should really beat us in the 2v0s are things that are just completely hard counters. So outside of that, I would expect us to win pretty much 95% of the matchups. It's just the way I look at it. And then in the 0 versus 2, we do actually hit that double digits. I'm at least usually looking for at least 10%, and 14.7 of course does that very well. Next, in terms of the meta though, let's actually go over these. So in the 0 versus 0, we do have a clean 50%. In the 1v0, we do have a 75%. The 0 versus 1 is a 33.3, and in the 1v1, we do end with a 58.3. So let's go over these really fast. In the 0 versus 0 and the 1v1, we do actually have at least 50% in both of those. In the meta, it's a little bit different for the 1 versus 0. I'd say 75 is pretty average still. I mean, if you in the meta end up getting high 80s, low 90s, I would consider that a pretty dominating Pokemon. In the 0 versus 1 though, this is kind of where it brings it back for me. The 33% is pretty freaking good. I would say that's one of the better Pokemon that we've seen in that scenario so far this month, which is pretty freaking good. So if we take that 1v1 shield scenario in the meta, the 58.3%, keep that in mind, and we actually break that down into wins and losses, let's actually see what we win and lose up against. So in our win column, we do have Venusaur, Altaria, Claydol, Togekiss, Victreebel, Noctowl, Wigglytuff, Shiftry, Alola Ninetales with Powder Snow, Alolan Muck, Golbat, Alolan Ninetales with Charm, Haunter, and Frostlass. So you may be noticing that there are quite a few Pokemon missing from this list, and we now have 2 variations of Alolan Ninetales. No, we don't have a massive amount of losses, but we do have a slight shift in what PvPoke considers the core meta. It was originally, I think, 32 or 33 Pokemon, and it's now been honed down to a clean 24. So out of these wins, there are some pretty big ones. Altaria and Venusaur are 2 big ones that I was pretty surprised by, at least. But that's kind of what I think makes Alolan Sandslash kind of have its place in this cup, is that it's got a really strong hold on 2 huge names that we're typically seeing at the top of everybody's loss list. But speaking of losses, in terms of our losses, we do actually have a tie with this moveset up against ourselves, which is going to be in the top right hand corner there. Outside of that though, we do lose to Probopass, Bronzong, Swampert, Quagsire, Whiscash, Charizard, Poliwrath, Alolan Marowak, and Heracross. Even though they cut a ton of Pokemon out of the meta, our boy Heracross still stays in. As far as these losses go, I would say these are pretty standard. I guess they're to be expected. I mean, Alolan, Marowak, and Charizard are going to have some firepower, which of course we hate fire, being that we're steel and ice. Probopass and Bronzong, I mean, they're both extremely bulky in their own right, but they also do have access to some decent damaging moves. Swampert, Quagsire, Whiscash, all going to have ground type moves, which we are going to have a problem with. And then Poliwrath and Heracross are going to be the fighters, which of course we still have a huge problem with fighting types. If we actually tear down all those losses and take a look at what I like to call the Ripe and Rotten section, this is kind of where we're going to take some categorical looks at our losses and kind of just break those down even further. We kind of can put some categories together here, like the fighters, like I said, Heracross and Poliwrath, are big threats to us. And one of the easiest ways that we can actually help complement Alolan Sandslash here is by pairing ourselves with a fairy type. Something like Togekiss or Wigglytuff will really help out up against the fighters. For what it's worth, Haunter also is really good up against the fighters, but he didn't kind of fit my category, but honorable mention, definitely. Next, we do have the fire category, which we have a big problem with, like Alolan, Marowak, and Charizard. The best thing to really go up against those would be the ground types. Not really the ground types as much. I mean, the ground types are going to do good up against them, but I'm mainly looking for the water out of these three, like Whiscash, Quagsire, Swampert, all going to have access to some type of decent type water type damage. Quagsire is a little wonky there, but either way, all three of them are going to have great answers for the fire types in any way, fashion, shape, or form. And then lastly, we do actually have a problem with those ground types. So things like Whiscash, Quagsire, Swampert here again are going to be a big deal. And honestly, one of the easiest ways to deal with those are the grass types. As always, having that super duper weakness to grass typing, being that they are water and ground, is always an easy way to mitigate those. Things like Venusaur, Victreebel, or Shiftry all do really well here. And all in all, I'd say as a complete package, I actually really like Alolan Sandslash. I wasn't expecting to like it this much going into the deep dive, but it definitely put up some impressive numbers and some surprising things. And its win-loss list is, in my opinion, it's actually really good. I mean, our losses are pretty straightforward. I mean, as long as you pay attention to typings, you're not going to get surprised anywhere. So I say I like it. I think it's good. But that is actually going to be it for Alolan Sandslash today, guys. If I said Alolan Ninetales at all and I didn't catch it in editing, I'm very sorry. But Alolan Ninetales, for whatever reason, just always rolls off the tongue. Either way, though, that is actually going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thanks so much for watching. Always remember that if you want to help dictate what the next deep dive is going to be, you can jump down into the description. There's a Discord link down in there, and then literally just go into the Discord channel, exclamation point vote, and bam, it's done. So until our next video, which is going to be on Wednesday, which if I'm not mistaken, Wednesday is, yep, Wednesday's going to be New Year's Day. So I will see you guys in a couple of days. Until then, I will catch you then, and see you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Always remember that if you like to like videos, you could do that, but if you don't, you could be that guy. Otherwise, let me know what you have to say down in the comments below about the video. I do highly appreciate you guys watching. If you guys want to support me in any way, there are several links down in the description for Patreon, joining the community here on YouTube, or even just directly PayPal if that's your thing. I greatly appreciate everyone's name that's on screen, as you guys have showed some sort of support outside of just viewing the videos, and I thank you guys. You don't understand from the bottom of my heart. So until our next video, guys, I will catch you then.